When I wake up,
He's gone.
mess with me, I just
I still don't want my parents to know.
She's doing that. She's in the city.
You can use my phone.
She's working at Google something.
Wait, did you see this now? Just turn around.
So,
questions. But we will start with the pledge, and Brad will lead. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. We are a bit over time in exec session, but we are very happy to get started, and we will do so. And I thought I saw, is there?
Yeah, for the agenda, if we could add a supplemental dated today, and for those who are curious about the high school principalship, the gentleman being appointed here as a administrative substitute is not the principal. So don't get too excited, okay? Just
Well, there is a current principal that's not an interim principal.
right.
Obviously,
But
J.R.
that, just
Powers.
for those who are curious about that and trying to read the tea leaves, don't overread it.
Right, very good. And that's added, and you have it, I don't, but I see it, so that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have it either. We passed them out.
In there?
Yeah.
So Jay didn't get one either. So when Jay and I don't get stuff, then
That's right.
Right, I think everybody's in trouble. So public and staff receiving and hearing from anyone that wishes to speak. No one signed up, but we're happy to hear anyone that wishes to speak. As I look around, I'm not seeing anyone. So that means we can keep moving, and we get to go to student reps. And Jay, you're not the LACS representative, so we'll look like we have a gaggle of Ithaca High School folks here. So.
And I'd like to first introduce Jimmy Whitehead, who will start us off.
Okay, sure. So this week is Spirit Week, Tuesday through Friday. So today, if anybody saw, students were wearing flannel just to help start the week off. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is going to be Collegiate Day, where people are going to be wearing team colors or symbols of their favorite college to show their support. And Thursday will be Twin Day, where students or teachers alike will work together to prepare matching outfits so they can really show off how creative they are. And finishing off on Friday, it's going to be Red and Gold Day to show support for the IHS through showing off their colors. And the day will actually end off with a pep rally and a homecoming game for the football team.
So, starting this last week at IHS, the announcements over the speakers have been replaced by video announcements. These video announcements are televised individually in classrooms before first period starts, and in these, students report on events around school, weather, sports, and even world news. These videos help engage students to listen to announcements better. And in sports, boys golf is finishing off their season well with 6 wins and 2 losses. Boys JV and varsity soccer are both rounding off their seasons with an overwhelming number of wins as well. And the JV football team has won their first game of the season, beating Windsor 44-6. Is sure to welcome many more.
Well, last Thursday we had the German exchange students with the GAP program arrive, and this weekend was well spent among the students from Germany and the United States with a paintball game, a trip to Syracuse for shopping, and I think so far the students are having a lot of fun and really enjoying their stay in the United States. A week previous to that, for tech class, we had some cardboard boats in the swimming pool of IHS as a exercise in engineering and design, and a fun activity for the students. And so these boats were made out of cardboard and duct tape to test out who could build the boat that would stay afloat the longest in the pool. So we had a rather amazing turnout of spectators to watch as members from the tech class paddled around for about 20 minutes before all but one boat sank.
Okay. Let's talk about sports, and let's talk about today. You spoke about golf and soccer. I'm going to get more in depth about that. The golf team competed today to win the Stack Championship. The boys soccer team is competing right now to win the Stack West title. Very nice. The Manhattan Cross Country Invitational, which is in the Bronx, which is confusing. But here's something that's not confusing.
It is confusing.
Here's something that's not confusing. We took number 4 out of thousands of runners at the largest cross-country invitational in the second most populous state in the nation and the most populous city in the nation. And boys and girls, the boy who ran got, get this, the fastest time with all ever of Ithaca High School runner at this invitational of the decades of time we've spent sending runners to this invitation. Congratulations are in order. Okay, the IHS Brain Team went to Princeton University. Some may think, wait, Princeton University, isn't that tied for number 1 with Harvard as being the best university in the country? Yes, but our Brain Team is really just that good. We've seen them excel before. And they didn't come in first place, but they still had a blast. They still really dominated this aggressive trivia event. They had one blowout of something like 25 to 550. And they were using that beautiful black, we refer to it as a sports bus, but in reality it's the activities bus. So it was nice to see it used not just for sports. It could be for golf or for soccer, but really for everything, to go to Princeton, New Jersey for Brain Team. And that's all for this evening.
Very good, thanks. Excellent. Thanks, Ithaca High. And any board responses at this point? At first?
I have a question for Max about these cardboard boats.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to picture it. And was it in fact the case that these students were paddling around with the cardboard boats, and so when the boats disintegrated, they got dumped in the pool?
Yes. There were, I think, around 10 boats, and the students either used their hands or had cardboard paddles, and they would put down in the water, and the concept was just to see how long they could keep afloat. And so, yes, you would see boats collapse and people fall into the pool.
No wonder there was a huge turnout.
Yeah.
But, this shows great bravery among our students.
But you had actually kids from the class getting in there with swim gear to, remove
Yes.
all the cardboard, and so all the cardboard's out.
Well, I wasn't worried. I worried so much about the cardboard, although I suppose I should have been. But I don't sit on
frankly, yeah, you
facilities.
have
But that's very innovative learning, and the students and teachers are to be commended.
No, Pat, yeah, I was thinking of cardboard and duct tape plugging up the filters of the pool. But
Yeah.
we obviously that was in a consideration and ready to clean it up as you went. So very good.
Just one question. Who are the who is our soccer team playing tonight?
It's, I'm not sure. It's a Stack West championship.
Right, Stack West, and then eventually get into sectionals later.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's soccer team's done very well.
Yeah. I'm not sure, I'm sorry.
Are they playing here?
No.
And Brad, certainly.
Interesting you brought up the tech class and the sinking. I had the opportunity to speak to them last week. They brought in a number of folks from the outside to talk about business startup. So I had the opportunity to spend the day with them. A great group of students, both classes. One was at the beginning of the day, one was at the end. But great classes. I was happy to get to do that. And then I also wanted to do a clarification since Mayor Myrick went on the radio to say that I was wrong about the tax being assessed on the school district. I guess he took some umbrage at our suggesting one of the reasons for the utility tax might be the taxes the city is assessed. I want to be clear, the GEA is the number one reason why we might look at an additional tax. So let me be clear. I guess I wasn't clear enough the first time around. Secondarily, we have new assessments from the city, and also Cornell University has reduced their voluntary contribution. I exaggerated the number for the city. My apologies. I said it was $120,000, and it's a mere $114,000. So my apologies to the mayor for my having rounded up to $120,000. I had obviously misremembered it from a meeting. $114,000 was the number we have budgeted for the city. Just wanted to give the clarification and correction.
But it's six figures. I mean, it's
It's
certainly
just,
that is a fee that we did not pay in the past and that we do pay now.
Is that stormwater runoff?
Stormwater and sidewalk.
And sidewalk, this
And
two together?
sidewalk. Together, right, exactly. So we're always happy to work with the mayor whenever we can to straighten those things out. Anything else? We'll go on to the consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
Second by Chris. Not overly long. Anyone? Anything? Anyone?
just remember there's a supplemental with it.
Right. That was available to some, and Jay has seen it now. Correct. Okay. So moved and seconded. All in favor? That's everyone, and Sean had to take off and is absent. So we are a board of seven tonight. There we go, Dr. Brown. You're down at the bottom here, but it says superintendent's report right there.
Thank you. I must admit, daydreaming. I'm thinking about what I'm going to wear for collegiate day tomorrow. I'm thinking about borrowing your tie, Tom, and that would work well for me. My comments.
Do we have to guess which?
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice if you did. But yeah, orange and blue. Just one announcement. I'd like to bring to the board and our community's attention. On the 21st, next Tuesday, we will be launching our second iteration of the community survey to get a sense of how the community thinks we're doing on our goals and priorities. So we did this survey last year, and we gathered some great information and data about everything from how we're engaging young people, students' perceptions on how we're engaging them, about how we're engaging them, down to how we do two-way communication. So we learned a lot from the survey last year. We're hoping to increase our response rate. We're using a third-party vendor to help us with this survey, like all other surveys of this nature. Responses are anonymous. However, demographic information will be captured based on what you input. So we're hoping to be able to put this on every student device and every machine at the secondary level so that students can go in and access the survey and give us some feedback. We have your email addresses also, so we'll be shooting you emails with that information to our caregivers. So we're hoping that we get a lot of folks giving us some very valuable information about, I wish I had that sign up, our goals and priorities for the district and how folks perceive that we're doing. So more and more information becoming a press release, some information becoming. That's my one announcement for tonight. Thank you.
That's it, Dr. Brown?
That's it.
Okay. So on to school district business. We consistently say there's one very, very important meeting throughout the year. It is probably not the most important, probably not the most exciting meeting for a lot of us, but it is the audit review and the audit report, and that typically happens in September, October, right? And it is really the results of our external auditors come in and give us an idea, once again, of our financial position and our fiscal position as regards to our inflows and our outflows and where we stand. It's critically important in this day and age to make sure that we all have a basic understanding of where we are. So, to that end, we thought it was appropriate certainly to just do a review of that audit review meeting with the audit committee with 3 board members, and there are 2 members that are from the community that are appointed by the board. They are not board members, they are members of the community. So it's a 5-member audit committee. Some of us have been on that committee for quite a while, but it's really an opportunity to take a look at where we are. And Amanda, you're going to walk us through, and I expect to hear from the audit committee members as well, and certainly questions from the group.
Well, this is sort of inspired by Jay. I think after the audit committee, we had a conversation. The audit, there was really, we get a letter, or sort of a comment letter from the auditors, and this year was...
Well, someone other than the executive to address that.
Would you like to do that? Yeah, please, go ahead.
We have a clean opinion on the audit. There were no material findings on the audit, and fewer actually comments than in the past on our operational items. We continue to have pages of comments about the extra classroom accounts, but
those are all the club accounts.
all the club accounts and so forth, and we're not going to go over that.
But that's better than it has been in the past, they said.
Even that's better than it has been in the past. But no, just you don't need to toot your own horn to just say, it was a great report, and they're very complimentary of our practices and our processes, and that's important to see.
And I think we continue, at least from the business office perspective, to try to strengthen those in any way that we can with any kind of protocols, procedures. We'll probably be working with policy committee as we start to unroll, working with staff to think about ways that we could better manage our monies. And quite frankly, the audit report is a public document. It's going to be available and probably already is on our website. There's also paper copies in the business office here at Lake Street. If anybody would like to look through that at any time, they are available to the public. And it's really a wealth of information. And again, sort of, I think that the key to the conversation that we had was looking at the past 9 years of operations at Ithaca City School District and sort of getting a sense of where we've come from, where we're going. And this is actually taken right from the audit report. So this is not numbers that we put together in the business office or that anybody else, but this is actually audited numbers. These are the final year-end data that we get since 2004-2005 fiscal year up through the current fiscal year that was just audited 2013-2014. And Jay was the one who really sort of printed this out as a kind of a landscape document for us to take a look at because we've had some really wonderful public dialogue last year about the budget and then coming up with the utility tax and just really getting a lot of wonderful commentary about what we've been doing and there's been positive comments and there's been some challenges that have been posed our way and we thought that this might be a really good opportunity for me to facilitate a conversation with the board, very similar to what we would do in an audit committee, to look at how we've been managing our funds and taking a look at sort of the trends over the course of time. As you can see at the top of this sheet is our revenue. So all the money that has been coming in, and it goes anything from taxes to tuitions. Other revenue sources might be, donations such as the Cornell giving that we receive. The revenues from state sources is comprehensively the state aid that we receive. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second in terms of the impact on GEA. I know Brad hates being the only one to talk about this, so I'm going to chime in a little bit as well and give a little feedback as to how that impacts our state aid rates that come back to us as a district. Federal sources are typically grants, and then transferring from other funds might be things to support things such as like our pre-K program from UPK monies or things like that. And then miscellaneous dollars that could be rentals of buses or use of facilities or anything that we might be able to generate some revenue on. And as you can see over the course of time, typical trends show us that we've increased our revenue. Never at the rate, though, enough to really cover especially some of the uncontrollable costs in our expenditures. And I'd like to draw your attention now to the bottom part of this page. If you look at sort of the categories, these are driven not by the district, but they're actually driven by the state. When we account for things, there are certain codes that we have to follow, and so we don't get to choose sort of the names of these. I don't think any of us would choose data processing unit to describe technology, teaching technology, the television studio, all the wonderful things that we do, the BOCEs that we all fall underneath that one little title that doesn't seem to. If you take a look, administration, Board of Education administration is sort of the leadership that's, the 34 administrators that we have all throughout the district in support of those. Instructional regular day, if you take a look at that, that's actually all of the teaching and instruction. And so I'd love to hear the board's comments sort of from 2004, 2005 fiscal year till current day. 2013, 2014. If you look, we've gone up over the course of 9 years.
2% a year.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I think that when we start to look at these categories and break them down and look at the trends over the course of time, we're not really overspending in terms of the 9 years of this picture, right? Transportation. It's actually barely gone up over the course of time. Operations and management of the plant has gone down since 2004, 2005.
Say that again. Just say it again.
Operation and management of the plant, all of the campuses, the additional facilities that we have gotten through NYSEG downtown, Marcos Flats, the Hancock Street property.
12 school buildings.
12 school buildings. We've actually is decreased over the course of time.
Thank you.
This EPC should go down to
That would be our hope, is with the energy performance contract, we'll even be able to keep driving that.
That's right. That's right.
And certainly the 2007 referendum, we
Did a lot.
We were able to take advantage of energy savings.
And you can see that on the operations and plant when you look at, it hit almost 7 million in 06-07 and 07-08, and now we're at 5,000,007.
Right.
So you can see that we did have an impact with the 07 construction, especially on operations and
Right.
maintenance.
There were promises made, or expectations certainly, that a lot of heat was going through windows, outdoors, inefficient boiler systems, etc. So.
That's right. That's right. A lot of the next one, data processing unit, since 2004, I think there's quite a bit of changes in terms of technology and the teaching of technology and the investment in that. But if you think about from 9 years ago, that we've, a little over double that, but if you think about the technologies and the cost of those and how much we depend on those now, just even for our communications to people, I don't think that we're shooting any trends out of the water.
Not to mention state reporting.
That's right. That's right.
Which is buried there too.
Then you get to the employees benefit line.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah. So if you take a look at the line, and again, these are not under our control. These are factors that include ERS and TRS. Social Security has pretty much held its course. Workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, as well as the health benefits, both prescription, dental, and medical as well. That's been a 75% increase since 2004, and that's a 12.5% increase over a span of 9 years. And again, factors a lot out of our control. We had a fantastic meeting at our last finance meeting that we brought up here in the board, just discussing sort of our health plan and just opening conversation about what that looks like.
And what the opportunities are.
And what the opportunities are. And it was just great. We had such a wonderful turnout, and I think people, I think we don't realize sometimes these fixed costs that come upon us that are driven by other factors that we must address in our budget. I mean, we have to be able to plan for these things. That ERS will sort of kind of flatten out, hoping that TRS will do the same. We don't know the impact of the Affordable Care Act and what that's going to look like in terms of percentage increase for health plans. That's yet to come. We know that will impact what we do. So I think for we as a staff in the business office, the Human Resources Department, the board, and the community, those are sort of budget factors that we want to make sure that we stay ahead of and that are planning for. And as revenue, you can see as it's not really shifting at that rate, we won't be able to cover sometimes those expenses if we don't keep ahead of this curve.
Go ahead, Chris.
Just looking at transportation, which you expect to fluctuate from, I mean, it's a gradual increase, but how do we manage that? I know, as the fleet, replacing the fleet and doing what we need to do.
Yeah.
We continue to replace the fleet on a 10-year, a tenth of the fleet every year. It's been 4 or 5 years now that we've been buying more of those 42-seat buses, the slightly smaller ones. They use less fuel. It's when you're at an almost $5 million cost, anything you do on the margin saves you some money.
Yeah.
That adds. We've also, Jim Ellis in the last couple of years has actually been able to reduce the number of bus routes by 2 or by 4? I can't.
I want to say 2, but he could be even better than I think.
Reduce the number of bus routes, therefore reducing the total size we need to have of the bus fleet. So again, just, it's not huge, but it's moving it, you know, trying to be as efficient about it as possible, using slightly smaller buses, a couple less routes, and that's how they're keeping things down. And I think his maintenance program is paying off.
I get the privilege of sitting with them quite often as a department, and really I think one of the key factors of keeping those costs is the preventative maintenance programs that they have in place. You know, it's interesting, they often say the one last thing that they must do eventually when the budgets turn around and they had a wish list, and if it ever got filled, was to actually pave that parking lot, because that is one of the biggest liabilities. I mean, people go out, they trip, there's holes, there's, you know, it rusts the buses from underneath. But luckily, the district has committed to replacing those buses on a realistic replacement cycle. We've used the capital reserves to be able to do that. And I think that has been a tremendous savings, because there comes a point when a bus gets old enough that it no longer is cost effective to keep.
And we tried, and we actually, when Jay, you'll remember,
12
8 or 9 years ago, we tried a 12-year bus cycle. We tried to spread it out. And what we learned was, when a bus gets to be about 10 years and 160,000 miles on it, it's time to retire it. Our maintenance costs were going up, and reliability.
Right.
We were having days without a bus and
cracking frames and
that sort of thing. So we've settled on 10 years. I don't think it's magical, but
other districts are a lot shorter. But
other districts get 95% state aid on their buses. So
exactly.
we've actually had the ability to buy some buses from rural districts that get 95% state aid. So they buy new buses every 5 years, since it's the state's money, not their own money. We've actually had the ability to buy some of those buses.
And Connor,
So this does look pleasing. It seems as though the only thing that's going up is out of our control. But I want to speak to the outlier. I don't know if you mentioned it, the community services aspect, which seemed to be non-existent for some time, and then went way down and then went way up again. What does that entail, and why did it go up?
So community services, as you can see, it's such a tiny little piece of the budget. I believe that is costs for us to send folks out, like if there are club situations that are not funded through extra class, but it's actually part of a class situation. So there's a budget there that would send kids out for experiential learning but I will double check on that to make sure, but it's so minimal. Typically those costs would be embedded also in transportation. It's probably the cost more of doing that work. Yeah.
And so as far as expenditures go, just along that line, where is the tuition that we have to pay out to new routes in those lines?
Special items and unclassified, I guess.
So new routes is about $1 million. Typically it's been that way, and that would be in the special items and unclassified.
Special items and unclassified, but they've been around, what, about five years?
Right.
And
6.
So we had this huge bump up in 2006, 2007, and we've seen a slight increase, but we haven't seen $1 million increase since they started, $1 million per year. So are we saving in other areas?
And again, this, when we're doing our budget work, we can, we're proposing budgets to be voted. We have our various line items that add up to a certain number. These are numbers that, that are audited by a CPA firm that have their category. These are actual dollars spent. Right. So so that is, to that point, it's not a proposed budget. This is what did we actually spend on what, and so they're going to put it in a category, and certainly we can drill down.
I mean, I can go back and find
see
out
exactly where that number is. They're not for their purposes. They're not going to separate out. Okay, charter school payment. you know, that's not what they're going to do.
Well, I do know that one of their comments in the audit was that those payments continue to be a significant drain on our budget. I'm just not seeing it as
Yeah.
directly reflected in these numbers as it would.
Well, it's $1 million.
Yes.
This particular chart, sorry, we didn't copy the one that had that on it. This particular chart didn't have that category broken out, so it's unfortunately in
And at any
another
time,
category.
we have internal software that we use to manage our budgets, and those are, we can drill those down very specifically. We can actually do them over the course of time. We could take a look at a specific expense. We could look at particular line items that drive this. So if there are, you know, these follow-up questions, we're absolutely
Exactly.
happily address those either in finance committee or even come back as we're planning for the budget. And we'll talk about the budget calendar in just a second. Those could be sort of things that we could highlight if those are concerns that you think might be coming from the community.
And I did actually bring my glasses so I could read. But it's, you know, when you're comparing really a 10-year picture, and that's one thing that Jerry Michelson has said in the past, that we are one of the few districts, he said basically the only district that asked for a 10-year snapshot. No other district, they look at 5 years. And I said, well, geez, I like looking at 10 years. But if you're going to compare costs over a long period of time, you have to be consistent with your categories. So they're going to funnel expenses to a certain line item. So, you know, so it's useful in itself that we have a 10-year look at all expenses. There's still education costs. It still costs to educate all the kids in the community, whether they're at New Routes, other out of district services they may need. It is there within the cost of the district. It's certainly not.
We pay for some children at George Jr.
Right. So
we've got, I think last count, I actually have the count. We've got at the moment 9 day students there and 2 residential students there. So I mean, we do pay some for out of district. I think I saw 3 other children out of district.
So really, year to year, depending on where those funds are flowing, they will be reflected in a category that is consistent over a period of time for our purposes. And these are, you know, we hire them to do this. I mean, this is for our purposes. We have to have an audit committee, and certainly we do audits. We do multiple different audits. That was one of the questions we had in the public comment period regarding the utility tax, you know, whether we are an internal, external auditor, and how many different auditors. We have auditors of our auditors, I would think, at this point. But go ahead, Amen.
So I just wanted to share that. I think if we're prepared to accept this, that would be great, and then we can move on to the budget calendar. Right?
I'm not ready yet. We haven't talked about revenues.
Oh, let's talk about
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you know, you're not going to go.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you go without talking about revenues from state sources. Sorry.
Would you like me to talk a little bit about foundation aid?
Why don't you chat a little bit about
Sure.
foundation aid?
So as you know, that revenue from state sources, so that's all of our state aid revenues that come forward to us. There are many things that make that up. Some are based on a formula, including foundation aid. Foundation aid is formulaic and has not changed, and in fact, the allocation for the district over the course of time really hasn't fluctuated at all. We've always, according to the governor's budget, we've pretty much gotten the same amount allocated to us because that formula has remained the same for the past many years. It also includes things that we have to actually spend to earn money back. So we get money back, pennies back, or change back on the dollar. In the range typically of anywhere from like a 40 cents up to 55 cents at our most. Those things include building aid. So if we build things and do projects, they're approved by state aid. We get money back after, you know, as we're building. BOCES aid, transportation aid. We also have public and private excess cost aid. Those are for high-cost students that are that will get aid back for the services that we provide either here in district or at other. Software, library, textbook aid. Again, you have to get a certain allocation based on a formula, and you only get that amount. And then hardware and technology aid. The foundation aid, that formula-driven aid, if we looked at that over the course of time and assume that GEA really impacts that, right? Because everything else is sort of driven by. That one is based on formula, and GEA, remember, they're taking money back to to keep at the state level and not giving it to the districts. If you go back to 2007, 2008, and I'm sorry I don't have this as a slide, but I can prepare that and put that in the Dropbox for you at a later date. At 2007, 2008, we were receiving $15,800,000.
In foundation aid.
In foundation aid, so that's that formulaic aid. Fast forward to 14, 15 coming up, or let's actually go with this year, that we just closed out, so we know the actual expenditures. If you apply GEA to the foundation aid that we were supposed to get, we actually have about $2.3 million less of foundation aid due to GEA, just impacting foundation aid alone. So we actually brought in $13.5 million of foundation aid compared to 2007 of the $15 million.
So that's 6 years forward.
6 years forward.
And we're receiving less foundation aid.
When we just looked at all the factors.
And you can see our total aid over the same period has moved up slightly, and that's because the 07 bond project, the building aid.
Building aid.
Our building aid went from, what, $1.6 million or $1.7 million to slightly over $4 million now. Again, a project that was approved by the state, and so now they're paying for it over 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And some of that's covering debt service, right?
That's correct.
So it's not you're not getting that back in your pocket and walking away. You have to cover it in.
To cover debt service.
Mm-hmm.
And then BOCES, as you'll recall, is a reimbursement aid. We pay this year, we get a portion of it back, 49.3 cents or whatever. Next year, in our BOCES aid, it's a reimbursement. And that's gone up somewhat because we've been buying some more services, the CDO and some other things at the local BOCES. But the foundation aid, the basic operating aid for the children, has actually gone down over 6 years.
At its lowest, it was 11 million, and that was in 2011. That's when the GEA was its highest.
And that number is not separated.
Now that's why we've been digging to get it separated out. Sorry we didn't have it ready for tonight, but we'll get that up for the next time.
Absolutely.
But our continuing issue is the foundation aid and the GEA.
Could you do the GEA each broken out each year too?
That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we're.
Okay.
The November 17th, when we look at the budget calendar, you'll see the November 17th Finance Committee meeting. It's 100% focused. We're actually bringing in the expert out of Questar 3 BOCES to talk about GEA discussion and state aid overview. And so that'll be a really great time for us to sort of dig a little deeper. And I'm happy to come back with a simple report after that to show you.
Great segue to your calendar. So you can put your
Other questions? Judy Max, go ahead.
Okay, down at the very bottom, where in the red, let's say this year, $7 million and then 5 and so forth, where do we get the money?
That comes from fund balance.
Okay, which fund balance?
Different ones.
It depends on what was approved. When we set up the budget, when we do our revenue streams, we include all of the things that are listed on top. And then also as revenue, then we attribute whatever fund balance, whether it's restricted or unrestricted. So unrestricted is sort of like your savings account, and then the restricted is for specific purposes. Okay. And so every year we have that conversation.
We did both things because we had capital reserve, we bought buses, we did some other improvements. That's
okay. So do you know offhand how much we have left?
More than offhand, but that's a part of the audit as well.
It's a little over 10 million at this point.
Those reserve and fund balance numbers are in the audit on page 34, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it was reviewed, and that is where those
and Judy's
are.
correct. I mean, that's in decline because we've been using the fund balance to offset the loss in state aid, and you can't do that forever.
We like the years when we have excess of expenditures, and that's really helps to add to fund balance. The last 3 years, we have been dipping into the fund balance as the GEA. Frankly, the lack of support from the state has really had the biggest impact, along with other expenses.
I know on some audits, some state audits, districts get criticized for having too much. But what's
We
the
wish we had that
percent?
problem.
What
Well, the
percent?
excess of percentage. and
That's
mandate
the
speaks to that.
Unrestricted can be above 4% of revenue,
And we're what now, 1.5 or 2?
or two, a little over 2.
A little over.
Just a little bit over.
Okay.
So in
There
an
was
effort
actually
to-
an article in the Albany Times Union about that today.
We, as Brad has said,
If we have somewhere around 10 million in reserve.
Different types of,
Totaling up, if we had two years of the same loss, we would be insolvent.
that would be why we're not
I know. I'm just
spending at the same level.
pointing it out. That if we had 2 years of $7 million losses, a total of $14 million in losses,
We'd be,
we would not be able to pay our bills.
so next year's budget,
No,
It's a
no,
challenge.
the 14-15, the existing budget. Remember, this is a rear view mirror.
Yeah, you got one
Remember,
more
you're
year.
looking in the rear view mirror here, Judy. That's the year that's over that you're looking at.
right,
okay.
13-14 is over.
what we spent.
14-15,
We're in.
The year that we're in.
And what do we expect?
we're expecting a break even or slightly better than that.
Okay. So then,
We're trying to slow that.
yes.
That's what we hope is in the end, but we've allocated monies from reserves to be spent this year.
Oh, yeah.
How much?
It was $1,050,000, something like that.
I think it was a total of, I want to say 2 million.
Oh, one from capital reserve, one
capital
from,
reserve.
There's buses, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
right, there was one from
Right.
capital reserve, and then another
Some
million
from
from reserves from the retirement reserve.
It's a shift, in my thinking, it's a shift in mindset as opposed to monies up front to develop. That's almost like your savings goal at the end of the year. If we can shift our thinking of fund balance as opposed to using that to, cover our expenditures, if that's our savings goal, like we end the year with that, to me, that's sort of needs to be where we're going. As a district, we want to make sure that we almost don't touch that money that we've allocated. Obviously, capital reserve is something different because we use that to pay for our buses. But we'd love to be able to end the year that we could actually, backfill that money. So then there is a sort of zero. That would be my goal.
And we're headed there.
And we are. And I think that just takes a lot of, again, exactly what we're doing here. Understanding, management, working with partners, stakeholders, all those things for.
And certainly to as a great extent as possible to avoid any big surprises.
Yes.
Try.
I mean, I think, right, you can never guarantee, there are no guarantees. I can't use the word guarantee, but we're certainly, in anything I do, but we're certainly looking at, we've asked administration to be very, very tight. Obviously, we had to make a lot of tough choices because, as Jay says, if we continue to bleed money due to whatever reason, whether it's the state or whether it's just unforeseen costs, that not sustainable, and we can no longer do that. We're not where we were in 2009, 10, or 10, 11, where we had reserves of really a much higher number, and we were able to fund what the state was doing, fund that gap elimination adjustment was coming out because, okay, it's going to be for a short period. That short period has become a long period. So, if we can get the state to cease and desist, and that certainly will put us in a much situation to add back a bit on the fund balance, do what we do, provide the programming that we need to provide and want to provide, and that is expected to be provided within the state.
If I'm correct, and let's say the tax cap is 2%, let's just go with that, that our budget next year to keep our fund balance of the 10 million needs to only rise 2%.
There's too many variables, and you're skipping 2 years ahead from this sheet of paper. This sheet of paper ends in the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
You don't have this year on there. because this is audited.
Okay.
This is audited numbers. You can't audit until you're done.
Done, okay.
Yep,
So
real numbers, they
it's
come
2
in.
years ahead. In general, I think what you're trying to say is that the 2% of the tax is roughly $1.5 million. The state aid is an unknown right now because we don't know what they're going to do with the GEA and where they're going to go with that. And the other revenue sources are small, don't move the needle that much. So for us, it's the GEA that'll keep us moving if we get that money back. If not, we're going to be looking at another budget year like we were this year.
Okay.
And that's why we've had the conversation about another tax.
That we'll still have another conversation about sometime in the future.
Or not.
Or not. So, right,
No, this all
there is
goes-
no new tax. We have not voted on a utility tax. We have not had that next discussion, and
You know, remember, there's an election going on, and the current governor says he's got a $2 billion surplus, and he's got another $4 billion coming from bank settlements, legal settlements, so that he's got a $6 billion surplus. The GEA statewide is just about $1 billion. It's 900 and some million. I mean, $1 billion would put it back to the calculated state aid. Now, I know there's other issues. People want to talk about the calculation of the state aid, and I'd love to have them have that conversation after they've fully funded the existing formula. Let's not be changing it until we actually fund what we have.
Money first.
glad to have talks with Albany about funding of public
Or
education.
if they
in
want to
New
make
York State.
changes in the formula, I mean, we're, like everybody else, we're happy to talk about it. But when you're not funding us the existing formula, it's kind of hard to go into a conversation with them expecting they would actually do anything. I mean, remember, the GEA was temporary.
Can I have a raise
Year
on the
5.
money you're supposed to be paying me?
Yeah.
No, that's,
I mean,
that's.
remember, we're in year 5 of a temporary.
Yeah.
$20 million total
In counting.
in counting.
Go ahead, Jay.
So I just wanted to make a comment, a personal comment, that we had the public hearing a few weeks ago about investigating the possibility of the utility tax being implemented by the school district. We had quite a few people come in and speak against that. They said, I think they were pretty effective at, I think, being representative of the community, and I know that they were representative of the people who voiced their comments and concerns to me, general public and family and others. And they said, when times get tough, the family, you cut and you do this. And so I was took some of those comments to heart when they made comments that made me concerned. Are we doing a good job as public stewards of the taxpayers' money? Well, this happened. The sheets you have on the board in front of you happen to represent the 9 years of it on the school board. So I found it interesting to review what we've been discussing now, and in the end, to my relief, I concluded that the time I've been on the board's been a good steward of the district's money. And in fact, I think that the numbers show that we've been excellent stewards. Increases have been, very low. Some things have decreased. I'd love to see teachers make more money, but that's the line that's it's only gone up 2% a year. So that's been, we had early, I've been here long enough, we had early retirement programs. We've controlled the number of employees throughout the district, teachers and staff. So just looking back and looking at the numbers, when you see things like transportation being level and even down, you just go, where could you save money? What could we have done better? What could we as a board do better? What could the staff of the district do better? And it's hard to find. I think that we should be proud that the school district, the boards in the past, current, the staff, past and current, of being stewards, excellent stewards of this district's finances, and people who came in and were upset. Well, I think, again, being good stewards, we, at that time, had the public discussion about a possible other revenue source, and we would be remiss to not look that's our responsibility. Whether we do it or not, who knows? GEA's the huge number of dollars that we need to have come back. But we are not going to know about that until, early spring. So we have that huge unknown to have to deal with as we talk about making a new budget and difficulties. But anyway, I feel good about the years I've been on the board, and the numbers tell the story. And I encourage anyone in the public to take a look at what's publicly available on the internet. Stop in here and pick up copies, paper copies, and I challenge you to look at the numbers and come back with ideas. We're open to ideas and suggestions, and certainly that's what we've been doing for the years that all of us have been on the board, is trying to find savings and better ways and efficiencies and ways that we could do well, and I think the numbers tell the story.
His name is Jay True, and he approved that message.
Yeah, right.
It's it was a personal comment.
Yeah.
And if Jay doesn't say so himself, he's Any Elder, go ahead.
And I would like to take a moment to add the other side of the story. I didn't join this board exclusively to print out spreadsheets, although I actually did consider the financial collapse of 2008. I know I have some expertise. I was glad to lend that to our very sharp colleagues, and the numbers speak for themselves. We've done a decent job managing money, 2% world, the things we can't control. However, in that time, we have also done the things we said we would do regarding children. Graduation rates are up. The levels, incidents of discipline have been reduced profoundly. Out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions. The opportunity for athletes and kids who engage in extracurricular activities to take that to use to go on to the next level and to get scholarships and to shine. We have professional athletes, we have actors and entertainers coming out of the school. We have a wonderful little group of geek nerds that I've come to love who go out and share robots with the country with play. So that's a side of the story we don't want to ever forget. This is not just about numbers. So when people come to me in Wegmans and stop me in the places I find myself, and even if they saw numbers like this, they would still pressure us to find more radical ways to make change, right? People have said that. People said that to everybody here. So you guys keep running on about this GEA. Why don't you just assume you're not going to get the money and make the changes you need to make? What does that mean? What do people really want us to do? Close the school and increase class size by how much? Get rid of athletic program and risk completely abandoning the interests of those children who love that sport? What are the real options that we have in this environment in which the state, who is now flush, who originally began to take our money because of mistakes that were made by professionals in another part of our great state, how do we actually look them in the face and say, you're still holding our money? You're still actually holding opportunity for us to do an even better job, right? Everybody here takes seriously a large amount we get paid to do this work. So if there's someone out there who can untie the Gordian knot, who actually has a magic wand, who can help us figure out how we keep doing this in this alignment, come and talk to us. But don't look at us and don't criticize us for thinking about other opportunities for revenue. Please don't come here and tell us to give back climbing walls and iPads. It's just an indication that you really don't understand the work, and you certainly aren't watching these meetings. So we're certainly open to having engaged conversations about how we can do this job even better, but let's make them engaged and informed, please.
Anything else regarding, well, the numbers you see, or for Amanda regarding the audit?
So there's a motion?
Yeah,
I'll certainly.
I'll move the resolution to accept the audit as presented in the agenda.
J. True seconds?
J. True second, which I appreciate. Any questions to the motion? To anything else? All in favor? That's everyone, and thank you, Amanda, and thanks to.
She's got the budget calendar.
Right, but thanks to Amanda and your group and frankly Don Waddell, right?
Yeah.
Who are the two citizen members of the audit committee. Give great input. We don't thank them enough, but there are meetings throughout the year, and we can't do the audit without the outside oversight that they provide. So now, Amanda, please go ahead.
Now, the budget calendar. So similar to last year, so we wanted to really actually, I think this was passed maybe around January of last year, I think so. We wanted to really get going quickly to start talking about budget. We've already been doing that. We've been already having many finance meetings, facility meetings. We have been talking with admin team on how to roll this out. It's one of the priorities that admin team is focusing on this year. And so this is a two-sided, this will be a one-pager, two-sided, it's available to the public as well, on paper, as well as on our website in the business office. And I just, again, up here on the screen, the colors aren't as great, but essentially all of the light blue are anything finance committee related. That calendar has been set. Each month we're focusing on a different topic that really is a factor that drives the budget. So as you can see, technology is one, GEA and state aid another, facilities and utilities, preschool special ed, as you can keep going on. Everything in sort of that, I guess, taupe color is something that either the business office or Dr. Brown, that we would work together to be able to present to the public or to the board, as well as internal meetings with our budget builders. And just because it sort of shows up once, so if November or December we say meet with budget builders, that doesn't mean that process isn't going to happen all the way throughout the course of time, but that's sort of the official kickoff to those conversations. The pinkish color is Superintendent Budget Advisory Committee meetings. May be subject to change depending on the availability of the folks that will be in attendance. And so those will be happening at the typical times in the spring once we get really sort of the announcement of the factors, especially from the state around the budget. We know what the formula is to calculate the tax cap and those sorts of pieces that are essential. And then anything that is in the very, very light blue is anything that is put upon us by the state. So if you go to page 2 of this document, you'll see there's a lot of that. It all of a sudden turns to that color because that's really when the state deadlines in the spring. So we'll have to submit things both to the public and to the comptroller's office and state ed and anybody else that requires of us whatever it is that they mandate. And then most importantly, the burgundy color almost toward the bottom there on May 19th, 2015, is the school budget vote and the school board elections. And then we'll certify the results the next day.
So, any real issues, questions? Chris?
I just want to for his comments because I think some of us have been feeling and thinking that, and I'm grateful that he said it. To speak to this, to clarify for the folks watching, this is a real timeline that helps us, one, give transparency to the process and also shows that we're proactive and it's a moving, actual, almost living process that we do, that you folks do, I guess, where we work on throughout the year. So if there's any questions, we're putting it out there for people to be informed and educated and know how it works.
And certainly any finance committee meeting is open to the public. Any and all are welcome. You've listed, as you said, you stated that we have hard, fast rules and dates for actions required by the state. For us, we may change a topic in a meeting just depending on there could be a new development that discuss something else in the finance, but that certainly looks like we're going to touch all bases as we do. And we talk about a 12-month budget cycle. We're always talking about budget, how that impacts, and much of what we talk about is education in the classroom and throughout the year, and we've consistently done that for years now, Dr. Brown. And but everything that we do, we have to ask, okay, how can we sustain this over time? Not one-time funding, but multi-year. How does it affect the classroom experience, and how do we do what we do? So, any real questions on anything?
No, appreciate Amanda working on this. Finance Committee wanted to lay out a full year's schedule in advance for our topics, so that we could stay focused on it right through the year. So appreciate the work on this.
Anything, Dr. Brown? You didn't want to talk about numbers? You want to talk about the calendar at all? No, it's okay. It's all good. And Danielle put voting on here, so well, I do have my glasses. I should see it. It is a voting item, so we are going to.
I don't know. Do we have to adopt it?
Are we adopting this calendar, or we're going to say, "Gee, that looks great"?
I think we have adopted a budget calendar in years past, and I think that it's probably good that we have record that this is sort of our charge to move forward.
And frankly, if Danielle says it's voting,
Okay, I'll move adoption of the budget calendar as presented.
And I'll second it, since Dr. Everson Bradwell's not here, it would be prudent for us to do that.
Exactly.
When in doubt, that is what we do, and as Sean will point out and others, we can do nothing as a board unless we vote, and we had a majority. We want to adopt it because it's in the minutes, and if we don't vote on it, then it didn't happen, and so we can discuss, but we are taking an action, and that action is that we're going to approve this on favor, and that's everyone without objection and with one absence, and that's really school district business. We're not going to keep people late tonight for those of you waiting for signatures, etc. But other business by school board members or superintendent, anything,
Just
Dr. Brown?
to point out, the Finance Committee meeting is not on a Monday. It's on a Thursday due to the New York State School Boards Association meeting being on that Monday. It would have been, so it's on Thursday the 23rd. It's the date that's in here, but it's a different day of the week.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm just pointing out it's a different day of the week.
Thursday. Is a voting delegate to the meeting? Or?
Yes. So I believe Brad volunteered to be the voting delegate at the annual business meeting this year. If somebody would like to nominate him.
I'll nominate Brad to be our
Always a Tuesday, I'll second last day.
Second by Chris, and once again, you can't vote until we vote to vote you.
Yeah.
Does that work at all? I don't even think that works. All in favor of making Brad stay at a business meeting at the New York State School Board Convention?
To the last hour.
To the last, I mean, it's really that.
To the last hour.
Every day,
Thanks.
to the last hour of the meeting.
Thanks.
That's everyone minus Brad, who is abstaining for obvious reasons.
Thank you.
It is really the, and there will be representation from this board at the convention. Brad's going, and for some reason, Dr. Brown is making me go, but we're going to go. And yeah, frankly, it's been a good experience over the last few years to go. It was the first time I heard the Commissioner of Education for New York State basically tell us that whatever we were doing before, we will be doing it different in the future. And I said, oh, really? Thank you. Thank you for that. Any idea how we want to? No, just whatever you're doing, it will be different. And this was a few years ago, and indeed, that's the case. So you never know what you're going to hear when you're at the convention. So, anything else, Pat? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, apropos the Finance Committee moving from Monday to Thursday, the Policy Committee has moved from Thursday to Monday. No one from policy apparently was deemed worthy of attending the DISBA convention, or none of us wanted to. So we will be meeting on Monday, October 20th at 5 p.m. and we will, as usual, be considering many valuable and important policies.
So I will use Connor's words. Imagine, if you will, school board members from around the state congregating in one place. Just, you can, I mean, I can't tell you how, right, I can't tell you, but that's like, yeah, so, anything else? Are we,
I'll move German.
because we have, without objection, we are adjourned.
If they're not sincere, they're never going to be a second one.
Right, if people are waiting for something.